Welcome to the Perspectives Podcast. Josue here. As you guys are probably familiar, I'm a fellow believer from the Democratic Republic of Congo. Preach at times, but we're not here to talk about that. And I attended the Oral Roberts University. University. Graduated, thank you, Laude, but let's not talk about that. To my right, we have Mr. Chase Brown himself. He's a native of North Texas, or just Texas in general. He attended the University of North Texas. He's an aspiring philanthropic creative. And today is June 28th, and he still loves very long walks on the beach. Why that is, I'm not sure. Chase Brown, how you doing?
Yeah, bro, doing really good. We just got back from Tulsa yesterday.
Yeah.
Where we recorded with Abound, Shagun, and all of them, and it was a lot of fun being able to be up there and celebrate the launch of Honeycomb. Ooh. It was great, but today's been good. Been running around a little bit. We got our boy John Jin Han from Isla Vista coming in that we're hosting for the next few days. So getting the house ready for that. And yeah, man, just a busy Monday. How are you, bro?
I'm good. I think it rained today. Messed up my car a little bit, but no complaints here. But as I mentioned earlier, we're not here for us. And today we have very special guests, as we tend to do on the Perspectives podcast. We do this for you guys, not for us. It's for the people. And I don't know everybody's names. I'm joking. I know everybody's name. But we will call them under one name, and then from there we'll proceed to introduce each person individually because they are individuals created in the, what did the Christians say, in the Imago Dei? That's the image of God. And in the glory, as it says in Genesis. But with us today, we have a very special group from a special house here in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. Three-time group of Fort Worth. Five-time...
Creatives of the Year.
Four-time national The Voice of the Month. I don't know what that means, but we're going to go with it. 7 times diverse
group
collective of America.
Yes.
I think we're getting somewhere with this. Did you want to add anything to...
Nah, bro. I think you got it. That's many accolades, a creative house that we absolutely love and adore, and frankly that we've mentioned probably 15 times at this point on our podcast. So if y'all want to write us a advertising check, hit us up.
Our guy will.
Jesus.
Wow. My daddy's pretty rich.
That's exciting. I'm glad to have you guys here.
You didn't even say who they were, bro.
I was getting there.
He was.
I'm a professional.
I don't know.
So I'm gonna spell it out first, and then I'm gonna go ahead and say it because Angela's staring at me. So, so it is AXL Creative Co. What the Co stands for, I'm not sure, but I'm sure.
Company.
Yes.
Company. I thought it was maybe
Collaborative.
Component or something.
Component,
Cooperative or something. Close.
You're trying.
Let's get a drum roll, please, ladies and gentlemen. We have Axel Creative Co. in the building. How you guys doing?
Here we are.
Good.
Here we are.
Come on. Yeah. Well. Hey, yeah.
Oh my gosh. Goodness.
Wow.
All right. Well, you want to go?
So you want me to start?
Yeah, start. He
Hi,
passed the
guys.
mic to you.
We are Axel Creative Co. So excited. My name is Bosa. To my left is
Jordan.
And then I'm Angela.
And I'm Jalen.
Yeah. So we have part of the team here from Axel Creative Co., which is a organization or initiative under Mercy Culture.
So what we call it is a house vision. So it is technically an organization that falls under, that's just housed.
Yeah.
So it's like an extension of the church, and it kind of plays its place in the church and out of the church. So
Yeah. So we're super excited to have y'all on. As I already mentioned, we've mentioned y'all all the time, and so excited to be able to just highlight y'all and honor what y'all have been doing over the last year and a half at this point. Something like that.
Almost two.
Yeah, and so it's so great. So what we want to start out with doing is allowing each of y'all to kind of introduce yourself, just share a little bit of your story, your creative expression, and then how you got involved in Axel, and then we'll go from there.
Dope. Well, my name is Bosa. Josue reminded me this is my second time on. I thought I won an award. I didn't. Apparently, a lot of people have done this.
We'll get,
So
we'll
great.
get you one.
Thank you. I am a spoken word artist here in Fort Worth, Texas. I like to say I'm a storyteller. I like to tell a story through whatever medium that might be, whether it be video or photography, words. Any way I can tell a story, I want to tell a story, and a lot of times it's about the Father's love. I like to create safe spaces for people, and so those are my two things that I feel like are the ways I creatively, I guess, would say express myself.
So good. Yeah, Jordan, I am pretty much one of those people who wants to make everything themselves, so I relate with creativity on like every level. But if I had to pick that chime, Bosa, I'm calling it out. The chime, there's a chime in the background. It got us. So good. Yeah, if I had to pick, it's like one of those. I don't want to pick. Like, don't put it in a box. Like, I don't.
Yeah.
But if I had to pick, it would be like similar. It would be storytelling, or I love to storytell through film, but also through song and lyrics and the rooms. So I love interior design, and so yeah, I love to make stuff and paint stuff and put stuff everywhere. So. Yeah, I am serving on the core team of Axel. We were doing like some official stuff, like we should say it's like so. Yeah, on the core team for we call it our ambiance department. So we just kind of like steward the room that everyone comes in and like starts to experience the Lord through like their seat and where they're at and all of that fun stuff. So
Yeah. Awesome. Well, I'm Angela. Wow. Hit my chin right there.
Got 'em.
I'm Angela. Yeah. My creative expression, man, that's it's so funny. I think I like to call myself like a creative's creative. I really, just like these two and even Jalen, love to just create, through video, through song, through photo, whatever it is. I feel like I'm just drawn to it. And I don't want to limit myself either. I think limiting yourself, I feel like we grew up in a generation where they said you had to pick one thing, and I felt so out of the box and so out of like I don't operate like that, so I feel like God knows that about me, and we're on this journey together to figure out how to maximize that in that way. I also love dream facilitation, so I love seeing people put in places, and like putting people where God wants them to be, or pulling the best out of people. I found out that my number one strength finder is activator. Oh, yeah. Yeah, so if you take in the strength finders, that thing is amazing. It's awesome. But yeah, I found out that it is activator, and like I think even in this season, I'm like, okay, how do I do that with people? How do I pull something out? How do I turn something on? All while trying to figure out how to do that with myself as well, I'm like, all right, God, I don't want to do it there and not even just lead in an example of being, going for it. So, yeah.
I've called Angela many times to activate me and get me into gear. So it is. I'm a testimony.
Amen.
Okay, I'm gonna testify. For you.
Amen. And then
I'm appreciative.
Yeah, love you. And to make it official, I call myself. We got to pick our names for what we do, our roles and stuff. So I called myself the visual architect. So really, what that means is I'm like overseeing video for Axel. I help just create vision, execute, sometimes edit video. So yeah, not everything, but most things you see just have kind of funnel through this department that I oversee. So yeah. Jalen.
What's up? I'm Jalen. I am officially
Official.
now,
Make it official.
creative director of Axel. So just making sure that what's being portrayed and what's being presented to everyone just looks dope, and it really encapsulates what Axel is, and from the colors and working with Angela, and we have many other people on our team like Tessa and like Jasmine, like just we all work together and really like, what does this look like? What do we want it to look like? And so we just kind of work together and do that. Personally,
Come on, say it all. Say it all.
I would say, I would kind of match what Bose is saying. Like, I love to create safe space for people. I think like right now in the vein that I'm in, it's just like creating safe space for conversations, controversial topics, easy topics, especially when it comes to the social realm of things in life, cultural realms and things of life. And then creatively, I sing, so I do that at my church. I worship.
And
And
song rights.
yeah, I write songs.
Okay, let's say that.
And then like a multi-hyphenate creative. And so
Yes.
with me and the Lord, it's kind of like, what do you want me to do today? What do you want me to do this month? And so he'll give me the tool, whatever tool to pick up at the time, and really do it. So that's kind of what I do.
Yeah, that's awesome. Usually, I feel like if you would have asked me that question, I wouldn't even know how to answer that. But you guys already just round the spot. You already know who you are, and I guess that's just an expression that comes from. Both looking at me like, keep going. That's the expression that comes from what you guys are really just is the word fostering? No, that's not the word. That's like a foster care. What you guys are cultivating. That's a better word. Fostering. Anyways, but yeah, so that's awesome. So for those of us that are probably just listening, those of us that are watching and probably curious, okay, what's the story? I don't know if we've already asked that. If we did,
No,
I can take
right
my
on
question back. So what's the story behind Axel, and what does the name even mean? I think that's something that we all want to know. Maybe it's just me. I don't know, but I feel like I'm speaking for the people.
Can I interject really quick before?
Yeah.
Something you were saying about like all of us knowing what we do. I feel like all of us have been on this journey, of like what it is that we do. All of us. I remember. Can I share when I first met you, Bosa? What? Can I? May I? Listen. This stuck out to me.
I'll say yeah.
Okay, it stuck out to me so much because when you know who Bosa is, and we all know who Bosa is, okay, I don't think you identified as a creative.
No.
Yeah, and I was so shocked. I was taken back. I was like, everything about you screams creative, everything, And so now we're in a space where it's like, you know that God is working through you creatively, but you like went to school for accounting, you know what I mean? And so
Whoa.
like, yeah. Oh,
Accountant Bosa, okay.
I think what Jordan said. I'm just gonna piggyback off what you said and then let you answer the question. But what Jordan said about cultivating, I think that's truly what Axel does. It cultivates, and so before even being a part of the community, I identified. It sounds weird, but I was like, I am a revivalist. This is what I feel like God is calling me to do: birth revival. And I realized that God is birthing revival through the creative arts, through creative expression, and this is a part of the revival movement. And so it's been really cool to see that, because, just to be real, Big C Church shunned creative expression and arts for so long that it almost wasn't something that you could say, this is what I do. Like, you wanted to more so, I do this, and then I kind of dabble in this, and then if it makes me millions, then I can say, this is what I do. But if it doesn't make me millions, that can't be what I am, because I'm looked down on in a sense. And so I think being a part of a community that actually celebrates and cultivates that within people makes you say, oh, you can be a serious creative and a revivalist in this realm, like what Jay was talking about, creating safe spaces of conversation, hard conversations. Like, he does it so beautifully, but I think those things help free people. And that's one of the things I see in Axel that's been really encouraging. So, but the question was, what is Axel?
Jordan?
Yeah.
Well, I'll go ahead.
I muted myself, y'all.
Axel exists to equip and empower sons and daughters to advance the kingdom of heaven through their creative expression. So the call that you feel in the pool, and things like revelation that you get, our community is literally existing to equip and empower people to literally bring the kingdom through creativity. And so that's kind of like, that's our tagline. It took us a long time to get it down. We all used to like, you say it, no, you say it, no, you say it. But it's weird how like, oh, like I am living and breathing that now. Like I don't have to remind myself of what that is. Like I've seen it like every creative night. I've seen it done. And so I think the cool part about hearing, I guess, like the story of how we came together was because it's based on the Axel. So do you want to tell the story of like the actual, I'm gonna pass it because I feel like I jumble that part, but
No,
the
it's
Axel,
okay.
I feel like that's a really important part.
Yeah. So the Axel, so basically, Axel is birthed from, I think it's 2 Samuel, but it's the Ark of the Covenant. And so basically, the Axel is the thing that 2 people had to carry in between to carry the presence of God. So our idea, thank you.
There you go, Jalen.
Yeah, so one thing, I mean, this is something that we, when we first started, would say a lot, but like Pastor Jasmine, who is the founder of this, had a revelation. God had basically shown her what Axel was and given her blueprints almost 10 years ago, you know, and like for it to have been birthed in Fort Worth, I think it was like looking back, just the 2 years that it's been has been like, wow, okay, God, you're doing something. But she had been given the blueprints, and it was this scripture, and basically it was saying that if your creativity, like if the Ark of the Covenant needed to be carried properly. We know that Uzziah, like, or Uzzah, I can't remember which one it is because there's both in the Bible, but he died from touching the covenant, you know, like, or from touching the ark, or carrying it improperly. Right? I think they just had people. They were in a what was it? They were like celebrating on their way to the city of David. Basically, it was just miscarried, and so God had a way that He wanted His presence carried, and He said the Levites need to carry this thing, and they have to do it in community together. There was 4 of them carrying the axle, and so we are saying that we're that axle, and that our creativity, if it has the presence in it, then it shouldn't be carried alone. You know, if it really has the presence in it, it shouldn't be something that you can just do by yourself. And so that's why we're a creative company, a creative community of people saying, hey, we're after the Father together. And like naturally, we're not a networking, like we don't network. That's not our goal. It does happen, but like it happens after we receive as sons and daughters and sit with our brothers and sisters. And then naturally, we create and we collaborate, and once we understand that the presence is like the most important thing that needs to be carried in our giftings and our platforms and whatever it is, then we can like go forward and like you even shift differently, you know, you create differently, you start inviting people into the middle space, you start doing the hard thing, you know, like saying, hey, this project isn't done, but would you just give me feedback? And, you know, I'm going to take it, you know, and because I want what everything God has for this project or this thing or my craft or my ability. I want everything He has for it, and that takes community. So that's kind of the story that birthed from. So, yeah.
Yeah, and I love it, and I really admire, like, what y'all's team has done and y'all's leadership has done from a vision casting perspective, because even like as you saw in being able to just say in such a just second nature way, like the mission and the vision of Axel is something that is done because of, I think, 2 things. One, great vision casting from leadership, and then also like y'all's commitment to the mission, and that also kind of being due to like the sincerity and like the need for what Axel is doing, because it's something that we're trying to figure out like as an organization. It's like, okay, like casting this vision is something where like we've never really been entrepreneurs like in any sort of way before, and so figuring out, okay, like how do we cast this like specific like verbiage that's consistent with the branding and the vision God's given us and the scripture God's given us, so that everyone who's a part of it can say that in like in a routine way, to where it's something that's super special. And so really admire, like, I mean, Jasmine, all the leadership, y'all, for being able to do that, because it's something that's super rare. Because you see corporation all the time trying to do it, and so it's awesome.
If I can mention something about that, I think it started with mercy culture, but there's this saying, our heart, your mind. And one of the things I didn't realize, the importance of it, is that if we're continuously sharing and walking in the vision of it, if everyone grasps the vision of like, okay, we're sons and daughters here to equip the kingdom of God with our creative expression, we wanted you to do it your way. We're not saying, oh, you're a skilled man person, go do the thing and somehow make things for the kingdom, But if they know the vision, they get to run with it. And so we're all unified, saying like, yo, this is who we are, this is what we stand for, and this is what we will do. And so even if, say if I'm not on the core team or say if I'm not serving, I know that what I have and what has been placed in me and what has been like cultivated over time, I can do that to others. So when I have creators around me, I can be like, I want to equip and empower those that are around me, whether you're in Atlanta or whether you're in London or whether you're in Tokyo, you'll be like, hey, I can equip and empower the sons and daughters around me to advance the kingdom of God. And so it's like, okay, now you have the heart, now you have the vision. And so now you go forward and run with it. So
Yeah, man. And it's something that's been super cool is seeing a lot of the like art and product that's come from Axel. Like not just within the context of like, the monthly gatherings and things like that, but seeing, each of y'all creating your own things and the fruit that's been able to come from y'all being in community and the growth and development that's been able to come from it. Because it's something that's so evident. And I think something that goes along with that is at y'all's monthly meetings, one of the things y'all do is do an artist spotlight, which is something that I think is so cool. Y'all being able to bring someone up there to be able to share what they're doing, honor what they're doing, because I think it can be so easy for us whenever we're trying to do something grand to just kind of get caught up in like, okay, like we just want to do like kind of what we're doing, we want to do the same sort of thing and be able to just kind of not get it done, but we just get so caught up like in ourselves mentally that we forget about, okay, like want to highlight others. So if y'all want to speak a little bit on that and like where that came from and like the heart behind that, like that'd be awesome.
Yeah. Well, I love the artist spotlight. It's such a cool thing to do to highlight other Kingdom creatives. And actually, we were just talking about Kingdom creatives and what that looks like right before you guys got here. But just like this idea that like if we're not represented in this realm, like somebody of some other representation, and when I say we, it's Kingdom, right? Somebody else will have an agenda, will have a mindset, will have just whatever it is that they're trying to do, even if they're not trying to do it, that's just the way they live. Like if we're not represented in that space, then someone else will fill that space. And so what we want to do is we want to show the community of creatives that there are people in every realm that exist that are Kingdom. So I was just telling Jalen earlier, I was like, I was just on Instagram and one of my friends is she's basically a beauty guru, and which is like Josue. Basically, she does like makeup, she does her hair, she got pop and curls, like, and she wasn't always saved when she started doing it, but she got saved and she didn't stop doing it. And I know a lot of Christians maybe, I'm not speaking for all Christians, I'm just saying this is something that I've seen. So may be like, hey, maybe you should do less of the beauty stuff and more of the Jesus stuff, like take away that element a little bit more because it's kind of vain and put a lot more Jesus into it. And she implements Jesus in her stuff. We can tell, like, if you just follow her for a week, that she loves the Lord. She's always practically talking about the Lord, but she hasn't backed down from the beauty realm. She's giving hair tutorials. She's giving makeup tutorials. She's getting things sent to her. And she's one of the kindest, sweetest people. I've only met her husband, but like just from the time that I've seen her, she's just so sweet. And just knowing him, I know that like she's very genuine in that space. But she loves the Lord because he loves the Lord, and I know they love the Lord. And it's like we have to not be afraid to be in that space because her curl video might attract somebody, and they'll want to stay because they like the Jesus in her. They'll probably discover it along the way. But if she's excellent in doing the beauty stuff, then we want to highlight that. So that is the heart behind like the artist spotlight, is that there are people in every realm, and we want to make sure that people don't feel like they have to stay in the same 7. Or if you're a creative, it means you sing, you paint, and then you maybe do fashion, but there's so many realms of creativity, and with social media today, with YouTube, with just so much access at the touch of our fingers. TikTok creators, they just gave TikTok creators awards a few months ago, and I'm just like, man, okay, that's another realm of creativity. What does that look like for a kingdom person to sit in that seat and to do it well, do it unto the Lord, but like to do it well, So I'll say this last thing. I think of David, and you might have to say that, yeah. I think of David like when Saul was was hiring somebody. He was not looking for somebody who loved the Lord. He was looking for an excellent musician. David just happened to be excellent and love the Lord, So it's like the same thing with the kingdom creatives is that same thing. We want you to be excellent, and we don't want you to back down and kind of like shy away because you feel like it's vain, or it's like, God can't be in this. It's like, no, God obviously gave you this gift. Be excellent at it and love the Lord.
Yeah.
Hear and obey and do what you do.
Can I add to what you're saying?
Absolutely.
I think about one of the drivers of Axel, which is collaboration over competition. And it's really beautiful. I heard somebody said this about networking once, and it stuck with me. A lot of times, millennials, Gen Z are looking to network, to go out and I want to meet you for X, Y, and Z, instead of just meeting people, and then through that you've built a network. And I think that's one of the things at Axel that's happening is Artist Spotlight is able to happen because people are building genuine relationship. And so there's collaboration naturally happening. And so then you begin to see, there's a network of people that I can pull from, that I can ask questions to, and not from this, it sounds bad to use the word, but from this perverted, I'm trying to connect with you so I can get this done. But from
It's
this,
like an agenda.
with an agenda behind it, there's a genuine, like you've been a part, like we care about you as a person, as our brother, as our sister, and so now we get to celebrate and highlight. I think that's one of the biggest things about the Artist Spotlight that I love is you can actually celebrate people. Like it's not this fake, cute, I'm gonna wait for my turn because I'm trying to get on stage. It's like I genuinely care about this person sitting on the stage because we built relationship over time. So it's one of those beautiful things. And also just to highlight, Angela talked about being excellent in your craft. One of the things I've loved that Mercy Culture and I know Axel has also highlighted is excellence is basically just using what you have in your hand. Because sometimes as creatives, we get stuck on, I don't have the best camera, I don't have the best microphone, I don't have the best this, I don't have the best that, instead of just focusing on the creative ideas and things God's placed in your hands. If you can maximize the potential of that, then you're excellent. Like stop comparing yourself to all the people in Hollywood and just focus on where you are right now. And as you focus here, God will build things for you to where you might get there, but your focus shouldn't be necessarily that, but just on the process of building in excellence. And so,
I think that it kind of reminds me too of our other driver is character over gifting. And so we exist to equip and empower, but like we're more focused on the character of somebody and like them knowing God and hearing from God than like, oh, you have a great idea, you're in the middle of like on your rise to success or something. And a lot of that was because Pastor Jasmine, the founder of Axel, she just has like a huge heart for celebrities, and she just was so tired of like seeing all these people who even used to know God and like have a relationship with them and have this amazing gift and craft just fall away from him and like lose sight of who he is, and now they're like drowning in their field. And so even it's so even like cute to say like, oh, we want to like create through our relationship with God. It was like, if we don't, like, there's no hope for us. Like, we have to create out of his presence, because it will literally like eat us alive. Like, the world doesn't give us another option but to create in his presence. And so, that's one of our drivers, and that is what we focus on. So that's why even those things are so important.
Yeah, I think a word that I've heard, 2 words I've heard you guys use a lot is creative, obviously. Another word that I've heard you guys use a lot is kingdom. For those of us that might not understand, here's my 2 questions, so I guess you guys can kind of split it however you want. Is everybody a creative? 1. And number 2, you guys keep saying kingdom, kingdom, kingdom. What does that really mean for those of us that might not understand that?
That's good.
That's so good.
Is everyone a creative? I would say.
Everyone
That
in
is
general, or like in our community?
In general.
Okay.
Speak. Go do your thing.
Sorry.
I feel like I felt it. I felt it.
Yes. Yes. In the way that we know creative, like right now, like, how words can like adapt to culture or whatnot, but like we use creative, and when we say that, we think the artsy person with the maybe the feather in their hair and the is like I don't know. I'm trying to get real
I see
dramatic.
it. It's like a brown feather with the white tip.
That's what I'm saying. You know what I mean? It's hanging. You know what I mean? That's coming back in style. That's why I wanted to say it.
That means she has one, people.
No, but literally, we think of this. I think we get so trapped in this idea of what a creative is, but like honestly, a creative, like you can be in business and creative because you have to create business plans. You can be a scientist and creative because you have to create formula. You're always creating, like you're always creating. So yes, to answer that question, yes.
If I can follow up with that, I would say if you are tapped, if you are tapped into the Spirit of God, there's creativity in you because He is the Spirit of creativity.
Yes.
And so yes, it will look different. Kind of what you were saying. If you're in business, if you have family, if you like you're a scientist, if you mow the lawn, like every aspect of what you do. With you being the temple of the living God, you have access to creativity, and I feel like we've been trying to like debunk this image of what creative is.
Yes.
Because people say, "Oh, I'm not a creative," and one of the things that really broke the mold for me was we have listening parties at Axel, and so we come together once or twice a year. Some people think like, "Oh, a listening party, album release." No, actually, what it is that we set aside time to hear the Lord for what He wants to say, or how He wants to use our creativity for the year. So we will yield to Him and say, "Lord, what do you want to do with my creativity?" And then from there we plan.
Yeah.
From there you execute, rather than making plans and then going and then asking Him, "Can you catch up with me?" Mm-hmm. And so there at the Axel listening party, one of the questions was like asking the Lord, like, "Hey, how do you want to use my creativity this year?" And so I remember sitting there and I'm like praying. I'm like, "Okay, Lord, what are you saying?" And I wasn't getting nothing. And so it took 30 minutes in, and then I finally got a word. And He just said business. I was like, "What? How am I supposed to do that with business?" Literally, it took 2 years for it to finally click. When I was in a meeting with my CFO and with my boss, he would start asking me like, "Oh, what do you think about creatively? What do you think about like putting this here and this?" We're walking through a warehouse, and he's like, we need to figure out structures and creatively figure out structures how we can get shipping to be here. And Jalen, think about the layout. I'm like, whoa, this is how you creatively like infiltrate business, or like this is how I can use this gift that the Lord has put in me. And so it really broke the lid and broke the mold off of my mind to think like, oh Lord, you can literally use me in every avenue of my life.
Yeah.
And so that's how I feel like everyone has the potential to pull from creativity with God.
It's good.
And then you said the next question was kingdom. What is kingdom? Kingdom, when we refer to kingdom, I see it as the citizenship of the sons and daughters of God. And so it's like this kingdom and culture. So we have a driver called Kingdom Over Culture. It's kind of what we stand by. It's like we're sons and daughters of God, and that's our identity, and that's our citizenship. Once we gave our life to Christ and we said, "Yes, Lord, I love you. I will walk this life, and I will die for you every day." You became a kingdom citizenship. became a kingdom citizen and a child. And so that is what the kingdom, we reference kingdom, it's for God. It has his representatives here on earth. And seeing heaven come through that intimacy and that relationship. Yeah.
Hey, y'all. Just getting back in. Mic cut off, so continuing. But Angela, you go ahead.
It was my toe, y'all. I apologize. What I was saying was why that's so important is because kingdom is oftentimes going against what culture is doing, you know? And so, like, most times is going against but we have this access to the Father and what, like, his plans are, and, like, it just may look different. A lot of times when we come into citizenship or, like, say that I am a son, I'm a daughter, like, God will ask us to do things that, like, feel uncomfortable or, like, don't feel like what everyone else is doing, or, you know, can catch some slack or whatever it is. And that could be because he's doing both something personally within you, and something for the kingdom that we just don't understand, something or that is going to follow that we just don't understand and see yet. So, like, when earlier we were saying, like, being, like, just loving Jesus, but, like, hearing and obeying God, you know, and that's something that's it is a vantage point. I would say, from the perspective of what I know the Lord, it is a vantage point to create and know the Lord, because he will give you insight that the world cannot, you know, so.
Can I just add to that too?
Yeah.
I think one of the biggest things that I've seen, even, like, there's this clear distinction to me, even between Christian creative and kingdom creative. And it more so, it boils down to motive of the heart. Like, God is the only one that really knows what our heart is saying, but is our heart's desire actually to please him? Or are we trying to get a bag? Or are we trying to get on stage?
Yeah.
Or are we trying, so it's like, what is your heart posture? If your heart posture is submitted, like, if it is birth and intimacy, like Jalen was talking about, to know I'm a son or a daughter, intimacy and identity. And I think that's one of the reasons Axel is so successful, is those are some of the primary focuses, especially in this season, is if you don't have relationship with the Father where you're hearing and obeying and it doesn't speak to your identity, to know, oh, I'm a son and daughter, you're looking for identity still in other places. If you begin to look for identity in other places, then you begin to create for different reasons. And then, again, I always use the word, it sounds harsh, but it is perverted when you are not creating for creator. Like, that there's a perversion there. And so I think one of the biggest distinctions for kingdom is, what is your heart posture? And only you can really answer that question.
Quickly, that reminds me of a teaching that we, like, started off, which was the Genesis 3 teaching. But basically, like, this idea of, like, creating, like, after the fall, creativity, like, was used to cover up Adam and Eve. It wasn't used to serve the Lord. Adam had a job of creating names prior to that, which was from the Lord, for the Lord. But this was something to cover up because of shame. So what you were talking about, like, what happens when you are creating outside of God or outside relationship with God, is that you will start creating things to either cover up shame or whatever it is. It'll just be perverted. It will be for a different purpose other than what it was originally intended for. And so that's a big thing that we want to help creatives find that revelation of, so that they can create freely within God and not, like, limited in chains of, like, oh, because I need to be validated, or I need to be seen, or I felt insecure, and, you know, whatever the reason may be, you start to create more free with God.
Yeah. So then, creating from freedom and intimacy and inspiration, I want to give y'all a minute to, like, expand a little bit more on this, because, like, as some of the listeners know, as some of y'all know, as, like, my friend, I'm a pretty big notes guy. And I've done this a couple podcasts where I've pulled up notes from previous messages or conversations I've had with people. And the one thing I wanted to do and wanted to give y'all the opportunity to do is, the first ever time I went to Axel was, like, January 2020. And Jasmine talked about the Ruach of God. and inspiration in Genesis 1 and everything that comes from that. And it's a really deep teaching. And I think, do y'all have that up on your podcast? I can't remember. Coming soon. So plug for that to check that out whenever that comes out. But I want to give y'all the opportunity to just expand on, okay, like, what do you think inspiration is? Where does creativity come from, especially from a kingdom perspective? And then from there, like, anything that you want to expand kind of on Genesis 1 and the Ruach of God and, like, God being intimate when he created the earth. Like, giving y'all a space for that.
Oh, that's a deep one.
I had to take a second. Like, let me think.
So, one of the things I would say is Posta kind of touched on it earlier about, like, I think it's more like, what are you intimate with? And who are you intimate with?
Hit me.
And whatever you're intimate with will produce out of you. Because we're vessels. And so whatever we hold, whatever we store, we will pour out. And I think when it comes to the creativity aspect of things, I think that's why the Lord gave it, especially Pastor Jasmine, and what we're stewarding in this moment is like, we want to make sure that whatever you're intimate with is pure, is whole, is the original thing. Like, I think back to when the Bible, when it speaks about, he's like, I knew you before I formed you. Like, he knows every single thing about us. And so why not be intimate with the thing that knows everything about us?
Yeah.
From that place, then you can create. And so, like you said, Genesis, when he was intimate when he created it. Like, he was a well, I don't want to go there. Like, he was a father before he was a creator, and like, we can get into that. But it shows the intimacy of God and how important that was to him. But whatever you are intimate with, you will pour out. And so, and that's how it can become perverted. You know, it can come from a place of, like, if you're intimate with sorrow, you will produce it. If you're intimate with other things, it will pour out of you. And so you have to be careful with what you pour out. It's because those things that other people are being intimate with, they will align to it. They will gravitate to it. So that's why you see artists and things, or people like, yes, I get it, or they're sulking in this music, because it's what the artist is showing us, what they're intimate with. And so we're called to be the light. We're called to pour out something differently. And so if we're not communing and being intimate with the Father and creating those things, they will never know what it feels like to be created to something that's other than the thing that they're used to, other than the thing of depression or suicide or confusion or whatever, high on life. Like, it could be anything. And so I think that's an important take to the inspiration and asking the Lord, like, can you give me inspiration? And knowing that it will never, ever run dry.
Yeah, man.
That reminded me too of the last message from Creative Night. I think it was Pastor Jasmine talked about the earth like groaning for something to consume. And so even you're talking about like what we're intimate, we're pouring out. But then if you're thinking about the flip side of like people literally hungering for something to consume and something to ingest and be intimate with, and they don't know the Father, like, we are literally that reflection of the intimacy of, with the Lord. And so it really challenged, like, when she said that, you're like, ew, like, I think we have such a perspective of like, well, what can I offer? Like, am I really great at X, Y, or Z? And what we have to offer is our connection with the Father. And so that, like, when she said that, I was like, okay. And it just feels like it ties into that whole, concept. So
yeah, that's I mean, what you were saying kind of brings me to the question I've been thinking about. I was like, should I ask it? Maybe I will, maybe I won't. But I will. Okay, so once again, 2 questions. I normally don't do this, but since a lot of you guys, I figured it kind of gives you time to think and then answer. So for the person who doesn't really know, like, they keep hearing you guys say creative. Those of us, those that are streaming online right now, that nobody's streaming online, that was a joke. For those that don't really know, like, I don't know what my quote unquote gifting, my creative expression is, where does that person start? Right? And so that's question number one. And question number two is, the question that's kind of been rolling around my mind. I shared with you guys earlier about me singing. I don't sing. So for those people that are not good, but they still want to do something, what do you say towards that? Because not everybody's talented at every area, you know?
Yeah.
I can't just go up there and try to play the piano. I mean, I'm okay at it. I don't think I'm great, you know? So
But you're
whatever
nice
it
with
is,
it, you're nice
there's
with
a lot of different things that people want to try, but they're just not good at it.
Yeah.
You know, but I'm doing this unto the Lord, but it's like you're not good. So I don't know. You guys are the creators. Let me know. Let me know.
That's a,
It's great.
Can I answer? What was the first one again?
The person, how do you start?
Okay. Can I answer the second one?
Yeah, whichever one you want.
Well, for me, I say I want to answer the second one because it's funny to me. I started singing a few years ago, and I stopped because I'm not like the greatest. Like I ain't got training and stuff. And then wait,
I know why
let
we're
me.
doing this.
Can I finish? Can I finish?
Okay, sorry. Yeah, let us let you. Come on.
So anyway, I tried out for my worship team at church.
Oh no.
I ain't make it past round one.
Oh.
And I could have been like.
She being humble right now.
She didn't make it. She
I didn't make it past round one. And I remember in that moment just being like, Lord, why do I feel like I should be singing? Why do I? And it was kind of like he let me know, this is for me. Like, make a joyful noise for me. And even through that process, I began to see, like, there's power in me just releasing a noise in a room.
Yes.
It might not sound the best to somebody else, but there's still some spiritual activity happening. So my thing is, people might have desires, and I do think I'm still going to sing in the future.
Yep,
Hear me.
Yep.
But for those people who are not yet good or not good, keep going. If you really feel like God is saying this, I think it links back to the intimacy and identity because you can hear God. Like,
Yes.
So if He's still leading you to try, maybe the reason that you're trying is different than what you originally thought. Maybe it's not to be on a team, to do a thing, to release a thing, but maybe this is your way of connecting with Him in quiet moments. So I wouldn't discourage somebody from trying still if you feel like if people been, you should probably not sing, you should probably stop. If somebody's told you that, maybe you'd like take it back to the Lord, say this person told me to stop singing.
Yeah.
Should I stop or where should I sing? I've seen those questions, like leaning into Him. Like we have a saying at Mercy Culture, lean into awkward, because it builds trust. And so when awkward things like that happen, lean into it. So for me, I ain't make the team. Had to lean into that space to say, God, what happened? Because I really thought He had told me to try out. And what it led to, though, was me, through that, He was like, no, I want you to do this in prayer, join the prayer team. And then from there, like, I loved it. So
Can I piggyback on that? I think that I'm so glad you said that. You gave that example. It's because you might do something privately, say you might sing or you might draw, and let's use drawing. It's stick figures, but it's unto the Lord. And someone sees it and they're like,
that's great. Cute.
that's cute, but like for both of singing, like if you haven't heard her sing, I love her voice.
Yes.
And one of the things that I love about God is the fact that He didn't let her on the team, because that was a redirect. Because He was like, well, no, like I don't want you in this vein, but I kind of want you somewhere else. Which, if your identity was tied to it, it would crush you and you would never do it again.
Right.
But when you have that, like you said, the intimacy with the Father, He's like, okay, you're constantly giving it to Him. Like, Lord, I know this is something that I have. I know this is what you're speaking. I know this didn't work out, but I give it to you again. It opens just possibilities to be like, oh, this is something in the lane. Like I can, like if you're going to hear her voice soon,
Yes.
but like she has such a unique voice. I can hear it on records. Like I can hear it in songs. So I'm just like, yeah, you weren't supposed to be on that stage. Like you're supposed to be on something else, you know, on, like worshiping on worship stage.
Yes.
On that stage. But yeah. But yeah, so like it's a great example to be like, don't give up. Like constantly give it to the Father. Now, if you like she said, if you get those remarks like, so if you have honest people in your life and they actually tell you, like, hey, this it's not really sounding too well. Take it, apply it, and see if you can go do classes or go, go do these things. And if it doesn't get better, maybe seek the Lord and doing something different. You know?
Yeah.
Yeah, it just to kind of go off of that, it reminds me of like how many believers probably have that experience, and then they just say, "Well, I'm not a singer," or because they want to honor the Lord with their talents, that they do something like that and step out. And then basically like close the door to that whole like part of their heart or their life because they got to know, or, well, it's not in God's house and it's supposed to be pure. So like, I can't do it. And that kind of leads like into the whole passion of like our community. Is a huge part of the passion of our community is to equip people to go outside of the church and to take the presence outside of the church. And so I think that starting somewhere to find your creative expression, you really have to ask the question like, Lord, what pleases you? Because you can't really look at like a certain box, like, do I do this or this or this? Just to like ask him what pleases you. And it's funny, I think the things that he brings up that like he reminds you, the things that you love to do, or even the things that you're like great at. Like even you said like, I like unlocking people and like helping whatever. And it's I think that we kind of have these avenues that we think like we can be creative in, when really he's saying actually like you're really great at activating people, and because you do your hair awesome, like you connect with whatever the connection is. So I mean, as far as like the singing and all that, I do think it's like it is a journey. So keep saying yes to the Lord, no matter what. But that is kind of what I've been doing recently, is just like what pleases you, because I'm passionate about so many things. I'm not good at everything. I love doing so many different things. So I'm like, Lord, what pleases you? And there's times to watercolor in like my journal time, and I'm not selling that artwork, but actually I might be passionate about it like next week, and he might be like, I need you to go give that to somebody, or I need you to like take a picture of that and post it. Or like start a little side gig. And so I have to be ready to like say yes to the Lord, because whether I think I'm good at it or not, like if I'm pursuing the creative avenues, then it unlocks my obedience,
I think you just answered question one.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
What pleases
So
the
good.
Yeah.
So good.
Yeah. And I think it's good because I think something that came to my mind while like y'all were talking is I think that two things that the Father desires in whatever we do in life, whether it's creative in nature or we think it's not, is humility and endurance. And I think it's something that if you start in something that you have like no development in, like whether you're gifted or not, like the development will only come through one, humility of you being humble and being willing for a season to not be so good at something, and then from there through that developing the endurance that it's going to take to go through like tests and things, because it's all going to happen. And so I guess to Joshua, answer your question, those would be my two pieces of encouragement. So for your singing, just be humble and have endurance.
I gave up on that a long time ago. I gave up on that a long time ago.
Oh my gosh.
Lord, we pray for fresh wind.
Come on.
Something I want to do real quick to honor y'all as individuals, and then we'll get back into Axel, was I was reminded, again, going through Jasmine's teaching, is in creativity, we're all provoked by something, and that being a part of the teaching. And like basically from here, like there's something about the world being formless, void, and dark that provoke God to create, and that the Ruach of God wants to breathe on the world today, like through creativity and things like that. So for y'all, in each of your creative expressions, what is the thing that is provoking you? Mm-hmm. And hopefully, like through that be like something that you can encourage others with, of like, hey, like you can come alongside this too, or just like a reminder for each of y'all individually.
You don't have?
Go ahead.
I'd say for me, it would be, I would say purity and justice. And I think it's kind of like my heart is just kind of figuring out glory. Like I want to be able to translate purity through whatever it is, whether it's a creative post on your story or a feed post, or actually making something like a good, just like, Lord, can you show me what that looks like? And I just have like a justice heart as well. And so I want to be able to marry both of those things, purity and justice, together to see what that looks like for the kingdom scale. One of the things that God keeps reminding me is that kingdom is global. And so it's for the world. And so sometimes we can kind of be, you're called to certain regions, but to always keep that in mind, like the kingdom of God is global. It's a worldwide thing.
Yeah.
And so kind of taking that campus off my brain and be like, oh, like, Lord, show me what ways do I translate that. So if someone picks this up, or if someone comes across this in France, or if someone comes across this, whatever, it'll be able to touch them and kind of connect them to you. But there will be some kind of pointed areas in your regions as well, because you're called to those regions to produce and create those things as well. So
That's good. It's such a good question. I think I'm constantly unveiling it. I think the first thing is like finding out what pleases the Lord in my creativity, because it's so like I said, I'm a creative, so sometimes I'm in here playing the piano, sometimes, I'll be editing a video, so I'm like, I could do things, Lord, but like, what do you want me to do? You know what I mean? Finding out what like that is, and then similarly purity, but also I think authenticity is something that like God has really just been talking to me about this morning. He was talking to me about transparency, and what that means. And I was like, where in the word does it use the word transparency? And it's only in Revelations 21 when it's talking about there's a transparent glass door. And I was like, all right, Lord, and so I'm just like, okay, Lord, what does that mean? What does that look like? Something that you were mentioning was like going through seasons of humility, of like not being good at something. And I feel like oftentimes I always feel like I'm the freshman. Like I feel like I'll be a senior for a few weeks and then I'll be a freshman. I'm like constantly just like being humbled in spaces, and where before before the Lord, glory. I would be prideful in that, and there wasn't of inviting people in. There wasn't space to grow in that and like be transparent and authentic about where I was, because I just wanted to be good before I presented whatever it was I was presenting or worked with whoever, and I think authenticity through creativity, it may produce a post, but I think like the relationship that forms, or like the connections that are had. I said this at a few creative nights ago. I said, I may never be the best at anything, but if my gift opens up a door to a person, then that's what it's for. It's for that space to open it up. Obviously, again, being excellent, using what we have in our hands, and doing it unto the Lord. Is good, but it really is about like, hey, I might like God may call me to 7 things, 8 things, and I may never be the best, but like I know it will open up doors for me to have relationship, to have community, to minister the gospel, or to share the love of Jesus, or to just be there for somebody, and people feeling the love of the Father. So it's hard saying what motivates. I think that is what happens in the process of creativity with me personally. So
Yeah. Dope.
So good. Oh, you want to go? You
No.
want me to go?
No,
Oh, we're going in.
I don't know.
So good.
Yeah, you trying to play me.
Yeah, like you want it.
Your turn.
So good. What's provoking me? I would say like one of my top strengths is restorative, and so I always look at the world. Literally, I can't not look at it through what it could be, and sometimes it feels like a curse, but it really is a blessing. And I think that most of the time I'm looking around and wanting to know that a parent isn't forgetting all these aspects about who they are when they're parenting kids and focusing on children. And so I'm a parent, and so that's kind of the vein that I'm in. But that does provoke me like a lot right now of like what is inside them and like how could they be encountering the Lord like if they picked up their creativity again. And not to say like every parent has laid it down, but I just feel like it's kind of it's common for that to happen, and unintentionally, completely, you're just busy. And so, that really like rises up in me. And so I really feel like a lot of what I'm even hearing from the Lord is just to encourage others to like not say one day, like say actually today, Lord, let's bring that back up, or let's sing or write or whatever it is that they can still operate in that and they can still connect with the Lord in that. And so, yeah, it's pretty good.
so good.
It's pretty good.
Pretty good. That's so beautiful. What provokes me? I would say I hate suicide. I would say I hate what is happening to the generation of believers on the earth. And I say that as like it's like a drastic statement. I grew up a Christian, but was still depressed, still suicidal, didn't really know my identity, and then was taught a lot of things that bound me more. And then when at least I think we're constantly finding freedom. I don't think we fully grasp freedom because we can't fully grasp all of who God is. So we're constantly learning freedom.
Yeah.
But when I began to see the stark difference between true freedom in Christ and what I had consumed in past seasons, I got angry. And I realized, I wasn't the only one. There's so many people who have been consuming the wrong things and thinking that they're receiving truth. There's so many people, especially with Gen Z, who they are looking for identity and they're being told all the wrong things, not just in the secular world, but also in the Big C church. That provokes me. It makes me say, okay, how do I use my voice or steward my voice in a way that is pleasing to the Father, that is relevant to culture? And I say that to say I don't bend to culture, but I constantly want to. I was laughing. So 2/3 of the world doesn't speak English, right? Like, but it's still the most spoken language. And so I was watching this documentary on like pop songs. And they were talking about some of the biggest pop songs. They are very simple because 2/3 of the world doesn't speak English. But then like the ones that do speak English doesn't mean they speak it well. So complex songs, and it's really hard for them to grasp. And so years ago, the Lord gave me this saying, complex simplicity. Take complicated things and make them simple, like to be able to bring simple truth. And so when I say relevant to culture, I mean still taking the truth to them, but in a way that they can actually consume it, where it doesn't feel overwhelming or too complex that, I can't even, like the cost of entry is too high, it's not for me. So for me, what provokes me is there's a lot of lies being masked as truth. And I really think it's time for the truth to just be everywhere.
That's so good.
If I could, one of the things that actually just happened, and I feel like I need to share it. So you asked like what was provoking, your creativity. And after I shared, this thought quickly came, was like, oh my gosh, like what if that changes? Like what if that is not truly the thing that provokes me? And I just like, honestly, I felt the Holy Spirit was like, it's okay if it changes. And I just wanted to like share that because there are times in your life that something may provoke you to create. And that may last for your whole life. Sometimes it may last for a month. Sometimes it may last for a couple of years. But being willing to, like you said, seeking the Lord and ask him like what pleases him. And he might give you something new to provoke your creativity, but don't feel as if you're stuck. Don't feel as if that's the only thing that you can do. And so I just felt like I needed to share that in that moment because someone probably could be listening for like, oh, but what if I have that one thing that I'm stuck at? Or I don't know if I could get past this. So yeah.
I feel that, man. I feel that.
Yeah, I mean, not to shift too hard, but I know you guys, at some point I heard somebody mention a podcast potentially for Axel. Could you guys kind of get into that a little bit and speak about the purpose for that?
Yeah. You're about to do an interview. I mean, we have an Axel podcast on all streaming platforms called Axel
Great podcast.
There it is. Axel Creative Code Podcast. And so the purpose of that is just another tool to equip and empower, A lot of our messages that had been taught, shared from previous creative nights will be some of the foundational things that will be happening on that podcast. And then soon enough, we'll probably venture into more interview style things. But it is another tool, essentially, just to be an equipping and empowering tool for sons and daughters. So if people can't come to a creative night or haven't been or don't even know about it, you can share this podcast with somebody and hopefully it does just that, equips them and empowers them to go and be a kingdom creative or even stirs them if they're not and say, what is that? And why are these people doing this for Jesus? So, yeah.
And plus, we have so many teachings. Like Axel's been going on a couple of years now, and so we realize like we have all this content, all this good stuff that we have to figure a way to be able to disperse it and have it really readily available for everyone. And so you will be able to listen to the podcast. You'll meet more of the core team, kind of get to know us a little bit more. Hear the foundation of Axel, and then, like you said, eventually we'll lead more into the interview style. But it's really awesome. It's kind of give you like that tech talk kind of vibe, kind of weaves in and out conversation, but also you'll still hear messages from Pastor Jasmine and other speakers that have came. So Axel.
And I think just to note, like you talked about the first time you came to Axel and how deep the teaching was. A lot of the Axel messages are not like a 15 quick message just to let you know that creativity is on God's heart. Like it is challenging and cutting, and you'll probably be processing until whenever you listen to the next one. But I would encourage people not to rush through listening, because I think one of the beautiful things is we get to hear Axel in the room, but then to actually be able to put on a podcast in your car and like process or put it on in your room and process what God was saying and going back and really going back over those things, I think is one of the coolest parts about the podcast is you get to chew on it and sit in it for a long time.
Yeah, and it's so good. And something that I wanted to encourage y'all in is like, I love how y'all as a team, as Axel, are pursuing things in a way that is just like taking it as God calls you to do something and doing it incrementally. Because I think it's something, especially with a lot of creatives, and I feel this a lot, where we get to a spot where either we feel like we have to have like everything or the whole picture figured out before we can start something, or just start something but it actually like not be quality. And I think y'all are finding that balance well of like, honoring your audience by not putting out trash stuff, but at the same time not having to like get it all perfect and being able to figure it out in the process. Yeah.
And even in the Grace, so like, it's funny. She was like, "Oh, you're about to do one soon." So we had already recorded one, and it kind of speaks to what you were saying. And we recorded it, and just like listened to it again. We had notes, and even though we had a schedule, being willing to be like, okay, it's fine. Like, we need to go back, we need to re-record, we need to add these couple of things because we want to make sure that the heart is conveyed. And so that really spoke to me. I'm like, okay, like, this is important. Deadline is, sometimes you have to like move the deadline because you think about the weight that it carries and what you want to translate because most people don't know Axel yet. And so it's been very within Texas. And if you did hear about it, it's because someone sent it to you. And so we want to make sure that we steward that as well for those who are in Alabama, or those who are in Maine or North Dakota. See, I'm seeing y'all. You know, we're not leaving y'all out. You know, people don't shout out North Dakota. Okay?
Come on, you got shot. For the one time.
Yeah.
Out of all of them. Yeah. Bro, that's too good. So then from a practical level, talking about all the things y'all have incrementally added, quickly go over kind of the programs and like activities y'all have right now, you know, the monthly nights and small groups, everything like that, that people can plug into.
Yeah, we have creative night every third Friday. And then after creative night, we'll have like a squad night, which is our serve team comes together. And it's kind of like another deeper layer of like equipping them or connecting with them or planning with them. And so it's been fun to build what it actually needs to look like. And actually just from like a quick example standpoint, because I'm over ambiance, like our setting of where we've met has changed throughout the time we've been together. And so each time it has to like change and grow of how many people are going to be there and what it needs to look like. And at the very beginning, it was just like so minimal, and it was very like just plants and a background. Like it was just very clean and minimal, and that's what it needed to be then. And so we're definitely not about like just like adding things to do. It's like what matters right now and like what is the Lord saying right now. So that really has like been the theme of us meeting, and we do our creative nights and we meet as a core team just to like go over everything and just invest in like our serve team. And so now adding the podcast, I feel like we can actually like reach more people, and that's the goal. So
and adding the live stream. We are live. Yeah. So we're doing, so if you're not in Texas, you're sorry. I'm sorry. I was just this is important. Let me just take back the point. We live stream now, which is another thing that we added. You know, we hadn't live streamed ever before.
Okay.
And so if, like you said, are in North Dakota, Maine, Brazil, wherever you're at, Wisconsin, you know, wherever you're at, you're able to view it and able to share it and able to now finally see. It's so funny because like I've been trying to tell like my friends from Arizona or like California like what this is, and now I'm like here, you know, I can kind of show you what it is rather than just telling you, you know. So
We have groups. We have Axel groups. So
Sorry, I like. There's so we've just added. No, go ahead.
we just added groups. So
Nice.
we really believe that the community is the biggest aspect of things. We one of our drivers is, you probably hear us about drivers. So I'm gonna explain what a driver is. So a driver is basically like a unique characteristic of our community. It's like it's things that you can guide your life by and say, hey, this is who I am. And this is what I will walk with, and this is what I walk in. This is what I want to set the tone for, the atmosphere for wherever I am. So one of the drivers is relationship over opportunity, and we believe that community is a big thing, and building with one another, collaboration over competition. All these things are kingdom principles. They're in the Bible, and so why not share it with everyone so we can apply it? And
You better repeat.
It's okay. Roll with it.
Pick it up. But we have groups, and so relationship over opportunity is a big thing. So we want to create a space for people to connect and get to know anyone in their fields, in their lanes, whether it's alike, whether it's not, to be able to like, hey, we can do this together. So
And so something that somebody said, I think it was one of our CERT team members, her name is Fallon, she's incredible. Shout out, Fallon, love you, girl. She said, was it her? Okay, hopefully I'm giving credit to where credit's due. No, this is supposed to be awkward. No, I know, but listen.
Press into it. Press into it.
I'm pretty sure it was her, but basically like, what if Demi Lovato had a community like we have?
I think that's right.
Like, what would be the outcome? What if like a Katy Perry, a Taylor Swift, a Justin, whoever else, you can go down the list, had a community? Like, what would be the outcome? What would have changed about their life? And would they be where they're at today? So it's just like, we don't know. Like, we talk a lot about the heart of Axel being like contending and interceding for celebrities and bringing back humanity to them, which is so true, because I feel like we rob that from celebrities. But it's also teaching people how to do the same with those around them, and contending for them, praying for them, because you could have the next Justin Bieber in the camp and you may never know, but it's not about having the next, but it is about your neighbor. And we really won't have the authority to do it like this with celebrities if we're not doing it like this with neighbors, so
Side for those who aren't watching.
side by side for those who aren't watching. So I think that is why community is an important factor in Axel groups.
Join a group.
Yeah.
I just wanted to piggyback on that real quick as you're talking. I think one of the beautiful things about Axel groups is that you get to own your influence. I had a friend that did this whole talk on owning your influence, but it really boils down to you. Like Angela said, you have no idea who you're stewarding, like who you're building with in the moment, but also you have no idea what being faithful with the little, what it can actually produce in the long run. Yes. And so when you're actually owning your influence, like with Axel now being live streaming and now being on YouTube, now being we have no idea what celebrities could get a hold of this thing. Like we have no idea what kind of reach this could actually have. But if you actually own your influence and you steward the things, again, you're excellent with what God's put in your hand. That's not just like creativity or tools, but it's like the people, like stewarding the people that God has placed around you well. You'll see that your influence doesn't only increase in creativity, but it increases with people. As you steward these people, it will spread. And so I just wanted to piggyback on that. Axel groups is a beautiful way to steward people well, to learn. I got to lead an Axel group this last semester, and it was really fun at first. Shout outs to Kiefer.
Hallelujah.
Joseph Kiefer. We got to lead together. And at first, we both looked at each other, we leaned into awkward, and we were like, this is not fun. What is happening? And it was so beautiful that core team reached out and said, what's going on? I think, Angela, you're one of the people like, what's happening? Let's pray about this. And we got to see breakthrough in our group. And I didn't know, like, some of the people that were coming were actually actively doing music in the city of Fort Worth. And if we didn't get to steward that space, we would not have been able to pour into those people. So it's beautiful. And it was like a lot of people showed up to Axel groups before they even showed up to Axel. It was like, somebody told me about this group. And I'm like, okay, have you been to Axel? No. And it was like, oh, so this is like the beauty of Axel groups is people kind of come test out the waters.
Yeah.
Check it out.
Yeah, love it. So then something that y'all have obviously said, there's a lot going on with Axel, but y'all have things going on in your own personal lives also. It's something that, at least for most of the team, it's on the side, and something that you're serving in a service capacity. So from there, from either the perspective of Axel principles or your own individual principles and boundaries, what are some things that you keep in mind to be able to balance, like the full-time, everything that you're doing with the side being involved in Axel while still having a relationship with the Father, like all of that? How do y'all manage that?
That's good.
It's such a good question. I'm really glad that you brought it up. So good. Go ahead. Yeah.
I think, okay, so something that I'm learning, again, BC.
Okay.
I'm learning it, bro.
Yeah. We're all learning it. But, I think even early in my relationship with the Lord, and even now, there's moments now where it's like, it is so easy for me to give my yes to so many things without weighing my yeses. I think like even today I was telling Bosa earlier, I was like, yeah, I'm just like revisiting like all the things, you know, and like even like in this season I'm feeling like, not the season, maybe the past few days, I'm like, I'm frustrated because I'm saying no to things that I feel like God is asking me to say no to, but I'm like, but if I would have said yes, I think I would be like better off financially. I feel like I'd have more time. I feel like I'd have, you know, but I'm saying no. And so I'm like having to like give my yes to the Lord. And one of those yeses is obviously to Axel. And it's like a hands down, this is a yes in this season. And so it's like, okay, God, now that I know what I'm saying yes to, that helps me say no to a couple of things, you know? And like what I've been doing lately is I write a list of like things that I feel like God is calling me to in this season. And it can shift because things change seasonally. And if the things that I am like, other than like, if it's serving at church, if it's the certain things that he's asking me to do monetarily, if it's serving with Axel, if it doesn't fit into any, or like music or film, whatever it is, if it doesn't fit into any of those, then I know that it might not be for this season. And so that's one thing that helps me to balance. But it is constantly changing. I'm constantly having to refine, like, okay, I may have said yes to too many things this week. Next week, I'm not going to say yes to as many things because there's so much. There are personal things. I think one thing that we've really been talking about is like what it looks like to have fulfilled our mission. And it's like, if we are struggling, core team members, serve leaders, like if we are struggling to fulfill God's calling on our own personal lives, like we haven't been equipped. We haven't been empowered to take this, what God has put in our hands and do it in our realm, you know, because I think this is something we learned from the church, from Mercy Culture. Pastor Landon said this once. He said, I will never reach every corner of Fort Worth, but you will. You know, he's like, I'm here to help you grow. I'm here to feed you. I'm here to pour into you. And then you are going to touch every corner of Fort Worth, you know, and that's the same idea from our standpoint, is that like with whatever it is God is calling us to, we have to make sure that we're being faithful to that, as well as holding on to Axel, holding on to jobs, holding on to, you know, whatever it is. And yeah, I think it is just weighing out your yes and constantly reevaluating what that yes is.
Yeah, practically, like a quick practical, because that whole thing is like definitely having to like basically create boundaries. But in those boundaries, you kind of start to see like where you're where you're weak or like lacking. And like there was a while back where like I had Angela call me at super early in the morning.
It's like 6.
It was
Come
like
on,
6.
we were up.
We were up, but you had like already been up for like so long. I was like, So I was really struggling having like focused time on my own creativity and time with the Lord, because having kids and being at home, there were so many distractions. And like when I would put my space for the Lord and put my space to be creative, it was just getting bumped by things. And so it's easy to make it to a meeting for Axel, but sometimes it's not easy to make it to a meeting with yourself to talk to the Lord about something. And so sometimes that looks like just practically calling a friend and being like, I need help to like start to put this time like in the very beginning of my day, and I'm exhausted, so I just need some accountability. And I'm already doing that with somebody else on our team, because I'm like, I still need help. But like that is like a practical of like, sometimes you can't do it all well, and you have to like kind of like hone in on certain areas, and whether that's being on time to the meeting for Axel, or that's, you know, hey, I'm gonna stay home because my family needs me, or I'm gonna take some time because I haven't been, you know, well in these other areas. It's just like we all know like the order things come in.
One of the things that even like in this recent season, it can be very challenging, especially when, say, like your 9 to 5 or your career is picking up. And so like right now my career is picking up a lot, and it's calling a lot of like responsibility for me, and more than what I thought that I could like handle, you know? And so you're like, whoa, I got a lot going on, but you know when the Lord's calling you to it, so you're just like, but you kind of reevaluate, like, Lord, what am I saying yes to?
Yeah,
I need to figure out what to do with this time because I want to steward it well and with excellence. And so there was this moment where I was just like, there's an internal feeling like, do I have to let it go? Like, you know, you're dealing like, do I have to let it go? And
Talk about that.
and that's a fear. That's honestly a fear. But one of the things that really shook me, I was talking to Pastor Jasmine about it, and we're going there. Okay. So I had to be really honest about like, hey, I don't have the capacity in this season, and that was kind of hard to say because you want to be that high functioning creative, and like, yeah, I can do all things. Like, yeah, I can juggle it. And then having to be like, oh, I can't do it. I can't do all those things well. And one of the things she was like, it's okay. We pivot, you know, like we disperse. So we're together. We're on the core team. So whatever you need for the season, whatever we need for the season, we will always move around. I remember one time, like he was like, hey, I just need help. And he was like, I got you. We got you. Like however long you need. And so it really speaks to, because you think like, oh, is it either it's this or it's that? And it was like this freedom of being like, oh, okay, I have family, I have people that are with me that will be able to carry it with me, you know, and it's okay if you have to like step back and maybe do a little role, like a different role in this season of time, so that you're healthy, and you're efficient, and you can move, and you can go forward together, and so that has really been eye opening and helpful as well.
If I could add to that as well, I think one of the things that I've been learning just from watching people in this season. I had this conversation with one of our pastors at church. Pastor Heather was saying she is a mom of three. She is lead pastor of our church. She is running this nonprofit called Justice Reform. They are doing a justice run. They're building justice residences. And it was like our first conversation ever. And I was just kind of like, just figure out what she was about, what she was believed in, all these things. And she kind of brought up, we're sitting in our new building at that time, and she was like, Bosa, if I had just had my first child and this happened, I couldn't handle it. And it was like she's like, I got to get through that process, and then got through the second child and the third, and so now I can handle this, and this. And it's that reminder, like you say, incremental, that we can break down as creatives, we can break down our goals into these incremental things to where we know, like Angela was saying, in this season, that might not be for me, but next season that might, like Jalen talking about, we pivot. Like all of this is fluid, and sometimes we think that us saying no right now means that we won't get a yes later. But honestly, it's all incremental growth. So sitting down to plan, okay, for right now, what can I handle? But knowing in the next season, you might be able to handle that plus something else. So in your next season, it doesn't mean I have to let go of everything I was doing because now I'm focused on this. It might be that you have built the systems, the processes, the different things in your life that can sustain doing this, and also adding more to your plate. And so I think one of the things, incremental growth in creativity is a big thing for creatives. And
Bo, so why you got to hit like that?
That's right.
Man,
Why?
man.
That felt. Yeah. I'll just say yes.
That was good. Come on. I was giving you a thumbs up, you know? Yeah, a little thumbs up. Yeah, I mean, this is. Wait, go ahead. See what you're gonna say.
I kind of would love to hear about your guys' process, you know, about like how you guys, because you guys are also doing a similar thing where you guys are working and you guys are also doing a podcast and you're doing mission. There's so much that you guys are doing. So what does that look like for you?
You want to go, Butterman?
No, you got it.
It's actually funny because I was talking with, who was I talking with yesterday about this? I think it was Shagun, I want to say, when we were up in Tulsa. But there's this idea that God was walking me through back in 2016. And basically, I've still dealt with it like to this day, because it's just like an ongoing situation in life. And so I was so over focused on this one area in life that because of that over focus, I was letting other areas kind of fail and fall to the side. And so it's something that practically God showed me through that is like, you're not trusting me and you're not being obedient whenever what you're doing in one area is affecting your ability to be obedient in other areas. And so it's something where if I'm so focused on work in a particular area that I don't obey the Sabbath, like, okay, like that ain't good. Or if I'm so focused on doing, this sort of like good thing of doing outreach with, friends, yet, which to be transparent is a struggle, is, to the point where you don't have energy, like whenever you're around your family. And so you can't really like honor them or love them in the type of way that they deserve. Like that ain't good. And so that is definitely something that I'm still trying to grow in. And that, like, for us, I like using the term like heart controls a lot. We like to find as many heart controls as possible for God to be able to work through. And that's one of them for me, to be able to use in that. It's definitely tough because to do that, it takes time because I'm a very busy person and like to be busy too. And to be able to evaluate that, it takes you taking the time to evaluate that. And so even getting to that stage is something where it's like, okay, like Chase, like, come on, man. But yeah, that's me.
Yeah, I think there's a verse that came to mind, so I looked for it. I found it. 2 Corinthians 9:8, and it says, "And God is able to make all grace abound to you, so that having all sufficiency in all things at all times, you may abound in every good work." There's something about being able to have grace for whatever God has called you to, and just being able to lean into that. So for me, it's like anything that I feel like He has called me to, He gives me grace for, to where I'm not having to, like get weary or tired or anything like that. So really just leaning into that, and I think even just really going with the flow in those moments, trying to serve whenever I can, just being like, all right, if I got to do this, I'll do it. If I got to do that, I'll do it. I know there's a point where it's like you can get burned out, whatever, especially when you're a church community and they just want you to volunteer 24/7 and you don't have a life anymore. At that point, I think you kind of got to scale back. But for the most part, I feel like God's allowed me to take on a lot of different things over the years. So it's kind of just prepared me for things I'm doing now, because you're like, why are you always doing things? I'm like, I don't know, it's fun, And because of that, like it just kind of helped me whenever there's been a lot of things that's been on my plate. So yeah, that's kind of how I would say it.
That's good.
Yeah.
Do you have any more improv questions?
No, I don't have any more. I think that was it for me. I was able to learn a lot. Sit down here and listen to you guys talk and just take some mental notes. So I appreciate you guys, everything that you were sharing and all that was really good and really encouraging. And I'm sure that the people that listen are definitely feel the same way as well. So that was great.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, and it's really good. Like something that I also want to encourage y'all in is a big conviction that I have for creatives. I think this is the first time I've ever saying this publicly too. Is in some way encouraging or creating opportunity for creatives to partner their time creating with time serving. And I don't want to use the word balance in that case because I feel like it implies like a 50-50 kind of thing, to whereas like creatives, like, no, it's probably more of like a 90-10, 80-20 kind of thing. So real. But what I want to encourage y'all in is like, and y'all being on the serve team with Axel, it's something where y'all are able to walk that out. And in that, I think that you're able to stay humble and stay connected to what God's doing in life and not become detached from the world in a way that where it limits the effectiveness of your creativity. And so I think it's something that's so good and that I just want to encourage y'all on that and just keep it up. But yeah, give y'all the opportunity to share any last thoughts. And then Josue, you will share your favorite thing about Axel. So
Awesome. I just want to say thank you guys for letting us be on here. Because what you guys are doing is like kingdom. If you don't know what kingdom is by now, Hit them up. What you guys are doing is it's very kingdom. It's global, and so I firmly believe that people will hear the conversations you guys are having over the world, and it will be able to point them to God in a way that they probably have never seen before. And so I thank you for this platform for us siblings in the faith, to get together and really talk about what God is doing, in our generation and generations to come. Like, I believe that these conversations will last for a while. And so thank you guys for allowing us to be here.
Yeah.
Anything else? Yeah. Oh, we're going down the line. Okay. Yeah. Thank you guys. Honestly, thank you for reaching out. It's such an honor. It's been so cool to just sit down and have conversation with you guys. I love it, and I can just tell, like, an encouragement for you guys that you guys are growing in excellence in this, and it is excellent, And so, just like Jalen said, this is global, and like the people who hear this beyond Axel and before Axel, everything that you guys have already put up and will put up, I know they're going to be touched. I know they're going to be impacted. I know they're going to leave with a different perspective, and you will fulfill that mission. So thank you guys for just having us and just reaching out. It's been really fun. Yeah.
Love it. Anything else?
Yeah, thank you guys. One of the things that I've enjoyed about watching your process. So this is the second time, like Angel said, it's different than the first. The first was still a lot of fun. This is a lot of fun, and I think one of the things that is highlighted is the intentionality. And I think intentionality is something that is a part of excellence, like Angel was saying. And I think that's a lesson for anybody listening, is to be intentional with what you have, to actually take the time to process questions, to take the time to set up, to take the time to, all of that is so important, and it shows you care about it. And when you guys honor and value what you're doing, other people will then honor and value it as well. And so I think that's a great lesson for anybody listening is, be intentional and place honor on what you're creating, place honor on it, and you'll see that other people will honor it as well.
Yeah. So good.
Josue, what's your favorite thing about Axel, man?
There's about 10, but I'll give one. I think it was just the heart behind it. As you guys mentioned, with words like creatives and kingdom and all that stuff, bringing people to a place where they're able to use those God-given talents to serve Him, that He may receive glory and everything, right? So really just helping people develop that even more. I think that's absolutely beautiful. It's not a form of discipleship; it is discipleship, right? Because you guys are pointing people to Jesus and just making sure that they're using those gifts, those talents that He's instilled in them to be able to serve and love Him even more, and to have more people come to a place of knowing Him. So that's what I would say. That was the best answer I could give. So you know what I'm saying? So that works. Yeah, that's it for me.
Yeah. That was
That's
good.
it for me.
And yeah, definitely just keep running with endurance. And I'm definitely excited to see everything that God's going to do through y'all going forward. But yeah, so that'll be a wrap for us today, y'all. Thank y'all so much for tuning in. If you liked the episode, please like, comment, share, subscribe, all that fun stuff. All the information for Axel and these fun people will be in the description below as well if you want to go support them and their creative efforts or the Axel team. All of our information will be in the description below as well if you want to support us, podcast outreaches, all that stuff. So thanks again for tuning in. Until next time, much love. God bless.